two, and one. Just two questions in this debate. Number one, what's the trade-off on both sides when this new technology gets prioritized? Two, why is the marginal benefit that government gets of better research and more ethical practices towards animals the tipping point in this debate? A hint, it's not. First question on the trade-off of priority. What does opening government say? Opening government says that we need to evolve our current practices because animals get abused as a consequence of these experiments. Look, we're not living in the 1960s. All of the examples that PM himself gave already have rules of ethical practice that limits the harms that they have said. This is something opening talked about. Let's give it to them. The interesting point though is that CG talks about how this is an incentive for companies or for labs to be a lot more abusive. I call bullshit for two reasons. One, this type of research is already archaic. It's literally not supported nor prioritized in the scientific community. It's not true. Two, these people have every incentive to not be so abusive or malevolent because these mammals are expensive either way. That's what Joseph talked about. They don't have enough money to burn through so many animals as CG thinks they are. Third, I know we should care about animals, but if you contrast saving these animals or saving human lives, I'd probably choose the latter. Everyone in this room would probably choose the latter. I know Joseph is a bit too extreme when he talks about killing all of the pigs in the world, but that doesn't take out the point. CG says the extent of harm is more certain for animals. We say the harm of animals takes a lesser precedence than the harm of humans. Their principle sounds good alone, it doesn't stand well comparatively. The second and better thing that opening government says is that animals inherently are a worse basis of comparison for testing new medicine and new technology. And I want to be charitable and say that CG and OG is probably correct. We on opposition can probably conclude and concede that human cells are a lot more useful in explaining specific organs for the human body rather than animal counterparts. The very fact that this is something that will be heavily funded in the future probably proves that. Op stops at pointing out that it's bad right now and will never get better. Joseph is far more responsive. He says two things in regards to this particular issue. One, note not all tests and experiments need to come back positive to be useful. We flip all of DPM's examples of things going bad as a part of the scientific process. Insofar as the knowledge that you are able to accrue is not just indicative of helping people, you also help understand how animals work better. E.g., if this particular thing causes harm to animals, there's a new learning we can use to better our research for similar compounds or for similar substance related to it in the future. The second thing that Joseph explains is that it is inherently cheaper to use these other mammals. Note that cheap does not mean unethical, cheap does not mean lesser. Cheap means it is far more sustainable and easier to replicate and use to cater to research. Why are these two things incredibly important in the context of the round? One, note that the major stakeholder that exists in this motion is all of the human health research companies and organizations that exist. What Joseph explains is that there is a particular need for these institutions to proliferate and to become a lot more accessible insofar as we need a diverse perspective of countless scientists contribute to the process of this feature. The exclusive impact that we give to you is that their side inhibits that progress and monopolizes the industry to make these research or to make these types of research less able to be practiced. I want to note that these two weighing reasons inherently respond to CG's extension. One, CG glibly says that they get more ethical research. And maybe that's true, but they also gatekeep that better research to 1 to 2 to maybe 3 companies or 3 labs across the world. This is particularly inefficient, especially in the current world, because it slows the progress of who can help by limiting the number of people with that process. The world is large, we don't want to gatekeep stuff even more. But secondly, CG's response to us is in saying that collaboration exists. This is a non-rebuttal. Why? Because assuming collaboration exists, it's quite useless and an utter waste of resources for the Oxford Institute and the biggest labs in the world to lock in on one particular method. Think about how much of a fucking waste that is, given that it's still speculative as per the case of MG. Before I move on to the second question, I'll take the POI now.
Right? This is just factually untrue. Calling it archaic isn't actual analysis. Just look at how rhesus monkeys were treated in the RH blood trials 3 years ago. The reality is, to make effective results like you guys want, you need to make compromises to meet your quota.
And we have ethical standards to ensure that those don't go far beyond the past of unethicality. Or at the very least, if it does, we can call it out and we can punish things accordingly. This is something that exists, okay? It's not just like, oh, these people abuse animals. Wala na. Second question, on the list of benefits that Gov says spin them around, CG explains that their main winning condition is that it creates a better environment for research to be better. I really appreciate those in government. This clashes really well with the case of that we brought up, right? So CG says it creates better research. We say the opposite. Why are we correct? Why are they wrong? One, the particular policy that they have to defend changes how things in status quo works. Because of their policy, all of the benefits and alternatives that they say apply, e.g. these companies can still use mammals, don't particularly work anymore. Why? Because maybe like member of government can still buy the 5 bulls or 5 pigs or whatever, but the capacity for him to use those mammals in using towards somewhat useful research is diminished because they are deprioritized from the funding. So I really hope it's clear to you where Joseph positions the extension. If we were to weigh things out, the prevalence of research across the world is great. That is what we want to prioritize in making it easier for these particular animals to exist or for the usage of this particular method to exist. Giving them an easier time allows them to get research faster and to get more knowledge across the entire world that can be useful. The versatility of that research and the knowledge that it provides is not just for us humans, but also for the animals themselves so that we can better cater to experience and not just be so like rude and not be so like bad about treating them. That's what government bench lacks at the point in which they want to lock in so much on this speculative technology that maybe will get better in the future, but as of right now is a really dumb thing for most of these people to prioritize. Lastly, I want to talk about weighing us above our opening really quickly. Look, it's very obvious that opening has a lot of matter about why stuff sucks right now. But Joseph expands this debate not just on the pragmatic fact of where things are currently, but where it could be after that. That is to say, we are just a lot more charitable in like presuming that government can work, but even in that particular instance of them working, it leads to less research being possible, and in that particular research, it's just a lot less useful for the entire world to collaborate against. For all of those reasons, very, very proud to oppose. Thank you.